We will start with a roll call. Are you ready? Or we'll pledge allegiance and then do a roll call. How's that? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready?
All right.
All right.
Tracy Berkey.
I am here.
Lori Perry.
Here.
Eric Hansen.
Here.
Owen Harrington.
Here.
Sally Hurst Dickinson.
Here.
Peggy Jones Blanchard. Celie Longnecker.
Here.
Bobby Joe Michael. Melissa Muzzy.
Here.
Laura Vincent.
Here.
Jessica Wheeler Russell.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes from previous meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, additions, corrections, questions? Yes, Sally?
Right, in item 8, line 2, the sentence that begins Principal Brian Lynch, I would omit that comma right after Lynch. And then at the top of the next page, the sentence that begins Lori Carey, omit that comma as well. In item 12, the second line down, regarding the board self-evaluation, there's a sentence that reads, the board decided on 24 of the suggested 35 questions. And just for the sake of clarity, it wasn't the board per se. I think maybe, was it Celie and Mark, the two of you decided?
No, that was a previous board.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was in the past, the board made that
So
decision.
Should it say the board previously?
Sure,
Okay.
On,
yes.
okay.
Right.
Previous iteration.
You speak for yourself.
Okay. And then in item 14, the second line, spending time at the Concord budget hearings. So make hearings plural there.
You went to more than one, Sally?
Well,
Oh,
I only went to one, but they went to 3, so I think they deserve credit for that.
I would have gone tonight
Yeah.
to the city council meeting. I'm planning on it.
I'm going over. Item 15, second to last line, discussion on the 7th period schedule. I would omit that comma.
Item what?
So item number 15, the assistant superintendent's report in the second to last line, discussion on the 7th
Oh.
period schedule. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then 16, third line down, the sentence beginning safety at after school, I would hyphenate after school. And then in item 18, I have a couple of options. So this is Louise Andrus, comma, Salisbury, comma. I would either drop in a colon there to separate, to suggest Louise Andrus Salisbury, colon, and then announce what she's saying. Or alternatively, to be consistent with Samantha Kimball and Marshall Perry Matthews, to keep the comma and insert regarding. So Louise Andrus Salisbury, comma, regarding Salisbury and Webster students.
Let's go with that. That makes sense.
And that's it.
I just have a suggestion, request or something. Under 12, under policy committee, it says we ask the 2 policies. And if they just had a couple of words about what the policies were about, it'd be good. I don't even remember what they were about right now. And if you could too, for other people, like the public reading it.
Okay, so in the future, you might
KEC dash.
give sort of a title to the policy?
Yeah.
That would
makes
work,
sense.
wouldn't it?
Yep,
Okay,
Absolutely.
so we'll do that in the future,
Okay.
okay? Anything else? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will now open the floor for public comment on agenda items. Anyone?
See, like, under new business, can you put,
QC.
policy JLCJA for first review? For first read, we just handed it out tonight.
Right.
I mentioned that we were gonna be possibly bringing one that's,
Yes, okay,
so it should be
Um,
under new business.
okay. We can do that.
Thank you.
Hearing no one wanting to make public comment, good news.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we
Public comment.
also, we did have a policy committee meeting, so should there be a,
Yeah.
Okay,
Report.
there should be policy committee report.
We didn't know if that was going to come under old business with the policy. So.
Well,
either way,
all right.
I
Yeah.
can do it all together.
You know what, we'll probably let you do it all at once, but
Okay, okay.
that'll
It's
work.
gonna be on there.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, that'll work.
That's what those archaeologists that travel the country, they call it bundling.
I love it.
So good news. On page 30 on your digital packet, 29 in the non-public packet has lots of good news in there for folks to review and look at. You'll see lots of exciting end-of-year activities and the senior walks that we have at all the elementary schools. See pictures there, and that's always a really exciting event for everyone involved. We have a couple administrators here who might wave at the crowd. If you have any additional information or anything that you'd like to add to the good news packet, now is your chance.
I'll just add, we started up summer enrichment last week, so we're on our second week this week. I think we had like 80 kids sign up, so we have some groups going with we had a fishing group last week, we have 2 weeks of hiking, we have cooking going on right now, some different strategic games and mystery solving classes and things like that, so. Thanks to Dr. Worm for helping make that happen for the second year in a row.
Great. Thank you.
Brian shared some good news with me on the way in too. Brian, you want to talk about the haircuts?
Oh, yeah, so I before I came here, I was getting a haircut at the barber.
I don't know if you guys can tell.
And so I was talking to the owner, and she was really gung ho about coming in a week or two before school starts to be able to give free haircuts to kids throughout the district. Just had some planning.
And we're going to use you for the ad.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
That's fabulous. That's really nice.
Anything else? Okay. Committee reports. I believe policy committee has things to report.
Just in case there's folks at home. So policy committee did meet this evening, right before this meeting. We reviewed the policy IKB, which we had a first read on last month. We didn't have any feedback from anybody that there were any changes that we were looking to have made. If you remember, this particular policy was on the homework, and we just were looking to change the wording from must in most of the places and will to may, because homework should be based on the practice that students need and not just simply assigning it for the sake of assigning it. So I don't know if anybody here had anything to add to that policy, but we were looking for people to consider this a second read and to vote on approving it.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept policy IKB as presented?
Sure. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion?
If you don't feel that the homework achieves the goals of the policy, is there an appeal process?
I don't know the answer to that.
I would say that thinking of the typical chain of command, the first question relative to any assignment goes to that student's teacher and start the process there. If you're not pleased with that answer, it goes to the representative administrator. If you're not pleased, it goes to the designee. And then if you're not pleased, it goes to whoever's sitting in the big chair.
I would
Okay.
assume that's, I don't know that we have to have a,
No, that's
Right.
that's a typical chain of command that we already have a
Yeah.
policy on.
right.
That's not in the policy. It's just a question about how it
Right.
would play out. Okay.
Correct.
I'm just thinking it'd come quite a ways when first graders had so many minutes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so
Yeah.
much nicer.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
All those in favor of accepting policy IKB as written? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So
Okay,
this-
and then in your meeting, you
it's
came
not-
up with another policy.
We anticipated this policy coming before you. We just didn't have all the details at the last meeting because we were waiting for legislation to come through. But policy JLCJA is going to be required by the beginning of September. So we wanted to make sure we had 2 months to look at it. So this is a first read. There's no action tonight on this. It is a draft policy for emergency plan for sports related to injuries and additional protocols for athletics participation. Basically, this policy means that it's telling us that we have to have a plan for addressing student injuries and participation in athletics. And the policy kind of outlines what needs to be included in the plan.
Did we
so-
not have a plan before?
This is a first read, and I don't believe there was a policy.
We always had
specific.
a plan. In
We
fact,
had
we
a
have
plan.
most of this
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
already in place,
We didn't-
But
even though
not
it wasn't
in
required.
policies
It was not
specific?
in policy.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a new
Okay.
policy that's saying, we're taking this collection of procedures, you need to have these all in place.
Yeah.
One example is the location of AED devices.
Right.
So, we might know where they are, but we don't have a map of that. That'll be included in the
Okay.
packet, just like the concussion protocol and some of the other.
So
bits.
this is basically formalizing most of what we already do?
Yes,
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And we'll be working with Tom Clark and Kenny Edwards to make sure that we have all of this accessible and in one location.
Okay,
And the draft policy that we have for you tonight was actually one that we took from the New Hampshire School Board Association in terms of like making sure we included everything that needed to be included. So please take an opportunity to read through it. If you have any comments, either email myself or Randy, and we'll make sure that those adjustments get added to it before the next meeting, if they're appropriate.
any questions at this point?
So
Okay.
I have
Yeah,
a couple of questions real quickly. It says this needs to be reviewed annually. How do we kind of put it on the calendar so we actually annually review? Because of course, we only have 980 other policies.
If
that
the
need it. Yeah.
Policy doesn't need to be reviewed annually, the plan does.
The plan does, okay.
Is
Right.
that correct?
So we'll have the athletic director that will come under his or her umbrella.
So if there's no change to the plan, the policy stays.
Right, just like for instance, we have suicide prevention that's
Yeah, right.
due up in November of this year. We need to just look, and if we need to tweak that procedure, we don't have to necessarily change the policy,
Yeah.
because the policy really just points to these procedures have to be in place. Policy says we have to look at it every 2 years, but not that we have to change the policy itself.
And this year additionally, we have to have the suicide prevention hotline put on the children's IDs.
Right, and we're already on that as well.
okay,
So my second
go ahead.
question.
Yep.
I know.
No, it's great.
Serious. What does serious mean? It says serious injury. Is there a definition for what serious is?
So they have impact, I guess, for concussions, they'll have impact testing that, and so when they do the baseline testing, compare those results, they'll understand that in that scope. And I guess otherwise, it's going to be at the discretion of the athletic trainer that's on site.
Okay.
So we have folks there that are making that call on site.
That are trained
Yes.
to make that.
Yeah.
call. So
Okay. Just for clarification purposes, I know this is one of several policies that NHSBA sent out saying these are going to all have to be,
Mhm.
if, assuming they get signed into law, we're going to have policy things. Could you just give us an update for the record of where we stand on those?
Sure, so in August, how about if, in addition to a second read on this, I can show you what's in the hopper for legislation
Okay,
and things that we'll have. Some of them we've already done. For instance, we just did policy BEA, but we also said there's a little caveat that we may be changing some language. The governor is about to sign, or we expect him to sign, something that's going to say something to the effect that if there's public comment, that we need to have a half hour. So we can't just say, okay, you're done your 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We can still do individual, time limits for individuals, but we have to allow 30 minutes if
If there are
there's
that
a
many
need
people. Okay.
for it. So we need
okay.
to just tweak that language, even though we just put that policy through.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not questioning that whether or not we're doing what
Yeah.
they're telling us to do. I just want for the record to be clear that we in fact are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
all right.
Yeah, and the big one, or one of the meatier ones that we're gonna have to dive into is the, I think it's 1178. And that's the one about guns.
Yep.
So we talked about that in the office today, not coincidentally. And that we have to make sure that we have a conversation with local police. So we're starting that conversation with the Concord Police Department to really find out what they're looking at for best practice and if there's a procedure or protocol that we need to put in place if and when we have any concern in that regard.
Excellent.
And if I can just add to that, so even though that may not come in policy, we'll keep you updated as to the procedures and how we're answering that legislation.
Thank you. Okay. Any other policy questions? I know we lumped it into a
Yeah, no, I
bunch
think
of
that
different
was-
places, but,
I think that was
Okay.
great.
all right. The next item on the agenda is the board NHSBA training. You all have had shared with you a Google Doc. I note there are a number of suggestions on it. If anybody has any other, please take a minute in the next few days to double check that Google Doc and make sure that anything you think we ought to include in our training with NHSBA is included in that list. I don't think we've scheduled it yet, but we're hoping to do this in the fall, or do we have it?
No, we haven't scheduled anything yet. There hasn't been a lot of input on this document yet. There's been a couple of people have visited it.
But they're nice and broad. I
Yep,
mean,
they're nice
they
and broad.
really do
Yep.
cover. Do you want to read what's there?
So thus far, we have simple back to the basics training on the role of being a school board member. Review trainings and workshops that are already available with the thought of who may be interested in signing up. Talk about school board meeting procedures and process. How to be a responsive school board, keeping the public informed, communicating policy, and managing passionate public participation. The purpose of policy, why you need it, when to review it, when to update, discard, and board performance evaluation of the superintendent. So those are the topics that we have on there thus far.
So, if there's anything you want to add, please do so in the near future. And we'll work on scheduling something in the early fall, I hope.
Yeah, I'll have a connection with Barrett, Christina, and or Will Phillips. We'll try to get Barrett in for this training.
Okay. That
So
would be great.
It may be dependent on his schedule.
All right. Any questions on that? Moving on to new business, we have a personnel update.
Yes. Hold on, let me get to it. I was scrolling. On page, wait for it. My guess is it's going to be 32, but I have to get there. On page 31 and 32, 31, you'll see that there were 2 resignations received. Social worker at the middle school and a classroom teacher at Pennacook Elementary. Both positions have been posted. One has been filled, and we are hoping, with fingers crossed, that the other one will be filled. And it didn't necessarily have to be in the non-public packet, but you'll see that there are some staff nominations that happened since the last board meeting. These do not have to be voted on, as we've executed the contracts already through the temporary authority that the board bestowed upon the superintendent. And there are a list of new teachers that we've hired that we are excited about. Again, we are happy and always pleased with the new perspectives and talent that we can bring into the district. Some of these hirings are connected to some of the conversations that we had at the last board meeting relative to the music and band program. And we have folks that are excited to start their careers here in the Merrimack Valley School District, and we're excited to bring them on board.
Can I say a quick Just clarification.
Yeah.
What is a FACT teacher?
FACT is a special education program,
Okay.
and it's for functional support of students. They often will have a one-to-one aide, and it's really for making sure that students with significant disabilities are included in the regular curriculum to the greatest extent possible.
Okay, great. I apologize for not knowing that.
That's right. Yeah, we speak in acronym.
So another quick question. I don't know if we've hired a band director yet, but is there any procedure in place to do some team building essentially? Because, you know, it's kind of like a coach coming in mid-game with some of these kids.
And we have hired a band director. I believe it was in the last board packet
Okay.
for the band director. And there is, we have met with both already. We've offered time during the summer. They'll both be involved in new teacher orientation. And that's a 3.5 day affair,
It's
3 day.
a 3-day that has a mix of things depending on the role. And there'll be this year some opportunity for some off-site team building as part of, I don't want to release any of those details because that would be overstepping, but good stuff. And we'll be very happy to report back after the orientation's over.
And what about, will these teachers be at band camp to meet the kids before they meet them in the classroom?
My understanding is that the band teacher is already prepping and getting ready for band camp.
Okay.
Okay,
So the kids will be able to meet all the new music teachers before the year starts.
That's the plan.
All right.
all right. Any other questions? Okay. The reason we all came here tonight
Exactly.
is to hear from Becky Kennedy about our system of care. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Becky, and are you going up here? Because, all right, I'm moving then. Yay!
And world news is almost over then, so my parents might catch this, they might.
Sorry. No, that's trippy.
People can actually turn it on.
Yeah, she's not the tech one, she's the system care one. Yeah, I know.
And need a mic. Check.
Thank you. So first, I want to thank you for allowing me to spend some time in celebrate and share the great work we've been doing in the district for our multi-tiered system of support and behavior. And secondly, that this is the format that I get to do it because it will live in a link. So when folks like my parents ask, so what do you do for a job? I can share this out. So all kidding aside, I'm thrilled to be here. I can share this presentation out, but it will also live on a system of care website that I'm working on developing, hoping for the last week of August or early September, that will share information out to the community, out to any interested stakeholders about our district community leadership team meetings and about the great work we're doing in the district. So I've broken this presentation into 3 sections. I wasn't entirely sure what to include, what to leave out, but I'm certainly happy to answer questions after I get through this brief overview. We'll talk about what the system of care grant work is, what MTSSB is, talk about district progress goals for the 22-23 school year based on behavior health and wellness, and then looking ahead at some exciting projects that we have in the works. So the first graphic on the right, if you can see those teal stars, are the 37 school districts that are actively working or have worked with the DOE and DHHS that have been funded through the system of care grant money or supported with coaching if individual districts funded the MTSSB implementation themselves. So our grant in the Merrimack Valley School District is the System of Care 2.0. The difference is the grant funds community mental health centers, specifically a school liaison position that we have access to for the life of the grant. I'll talk a little bit about what that position entails going forward. In 2016, legislation was passed that said the DOE and DHHS had to fund MTSSB implementation. So that's,
Can we do an acronym real quick?
yes, I'm gonna break it down.
Okay.
Yes, so MTSSB, what is MTSSB? It stands for the Multi-Tiered System of Support for Behavioral Health and Wellness. So like academic tiered system of support, really looking at behavioral health and wellness for the district. So what is it? It's a framework. It's not a curriculum. It's not a shiny new thing like this disco ball. It's really a framework that we will look at a district level and individual school levels. So we'll look at what makes sense, for our district and our school specifically, with a student wellness lens that's community driven, that's trauma responsive, has a youth voice, involves family engagement, and has equity and cultural competence. Why? Why MTSSB implementation? So we know in New Hampshire, about 1 in 5 students is challenged with a mental, emotional, or behavior disorder. We'll refer to that as tier 2 and tier 3. I'll explain the tiered system in the next slide. Less than half of those students receive treatment. Without those appropriate supports, you can see, I won't read through the entire list, but students that do not have support are at greater risks for things like chronic absenteeism and so forth. Early detection, right? The model for MTSSB is focused on prevention work, so starting pre-K all the way through grade 12. So we know early detection improves academic achievement. We also know in New Hampshire, schools are the hub. Between 60 and 80% of youth receive their services or referral to community mental health services through the school system. So here's what the framework is. This is a great visual. So when we look at the exploration piece, that is based on districts who may be implementing. We have grant funding, so we have already started implementation. So when we look at that red circle that says mobilize people, that's where the cycle starts. That outer light gray circle is what we're doing at the district level. So we will look to mobilize people. For us, that means putting together a district community leadership team. We'll look at local data, school district data, and state data to make a plan, implement strategies, and monitor progress. And we'll do so with fidelity. So the plans that we put in place, are they working? Are we using data to make those decisions? If they're not working, can we go back to the drawing board and look at other interventions or prevention work? On the school level, we will also put together tier 1 teams, meaning what are we doing behavior health and wellness wise for all students? And we'll also talk about tier 2 and tier 3 for students and families who may need evidence-based interventions, a light touch, or they might need individual services. Another point is cycle spelled wrong. Sorry about that. There is no finish line. This is not a checklist. This is not a set curriculum where you're done. It's really a process. Gold standard, if we're implementing at all of our schools, tiered intervention teams, we're looking at 8 to 10 years until we're doing this with fidelity. So you've got to move slow to move fast. I know I've heard that at previous board meetings, but absolutely when we're talking about systems level work. So when we say tiered teams, what do we mean? Tier 1 means supports for all students and all staff with a prevention focus. Tier 2 are targeted support, so a lighter touch might be small group work, might be individual intervention, but not for an extended period of time. And tier 3 is really individualized services. It might mean 504 support, IEP support, individual therapy for students. That may also include outside referrals. So this is not particular to just school counselors and clinicians. This is really system-wide, meaning all educators, community resources, and social services in the area. So a big component of MTSSB is collaboration with community resources and families. So this is not work we're doing alone as a district. It's bringing in local resources to help us do this work. So the outcome, what are the outcomes if we do implement, or if we are implementing MTSSB over time with fidelity? The goal is to substantially reduce problem behavior, suspension, office discipline referrals, students' time out of the classroom, ISS, OSS, expulsion, and to reduce time teachers spend managing problem behavior that not only affects maybe the individual student, but the other students in the classroom. The goal is also to substantially improve students' social skills, school culture and climate, consistency of responses to students with concerning behavior, meaning what are students learning in terms of school behavior expectations? Is that consistent across the board, especially in schools where students may change classrooms, have multiple teachers? Are we teaching students how to behave appropriately? Can we bring in parents and families and teach them about what we're teaching students? Can we talk to coaches, bus drivers, food service, and be consistent across the board and improve academic engagement? So here are some of our System of Care 2.0 partnerships. The Behavior Health Improvement Institute at Keene State helps us look at our aggregate data. We'll look at this over time. So this year, first year, we're just collecting baseline data on attendance, tiered interventions, not specific, but how much time we're spending at different tiered interventions at 2 of our demonstration schools, which I'll talk about. We've partnered with the DOE, the Office of Social Emotional Wellness. We meet weekly about consultation about what we're doing in the district. Riverbend is our community mental health partner, and Riverbend employs our school liaison position that we have access to. We share that with Hillsborough Deering. They will work at our tiered level work, meaning on our tiered teams in our schools. They're part of our district community leadership team. That is a full year position, so we can do continuity of care over the summer. If we have a student that we haven't been able to connect with outside resources yet, we can organize that with parents and families for student work. PD, family outreach, and really helping us with especially crisis situations with Concord Hospital, Riverbend Mobile Crisis Unit, which is New Hampshire 988, help with that process, both training our staff, but also being the conduit to get students supports that may mean not spending 8 hours in the ER, but really accessing mobile crisis to visit a family in their home. So part of mobilizing people is we established a district community leadership team with the goal of really developing a shared vision for student wellness. Members of the district community leadership team are listed up here. We meet monthly. We started for about an hour and a half. That was a little challenging, so we meet for an hour now. We are looking to hopefully in a couple weeks meet in person for the first time. That's exciting. And these are some of our community partners for the first year. We are looking to add additional community partners in year 2. We are also looking to add student voice and family membership to add community voice in there. Here's just a quick timeline of some of the work that we've done. We first started meeting in December, really just to learn what the heck is MTSSB, to identify some community partners to add on. January, we hired our school liaison position, so they were a little late to the DCLT, but has been a welcome addition. We reviewed in February and March district data, community data, so things like domestic violence data, single-family households, low income, low SES, and really looked at what are the needs in our community, not at the state level, but in the Merrimack Valley School District. We looked at our inventory for initiatives that we're doing in the district and looked for areas to align. Are there gaps? Do we need to focus on? April and May, we identified district goals. So if you see the icons up top, we're talking about mobilizing people to look at data and make a plan, really following that MTSSB format. Here are the 22-23 district goals for behavior health and wellness at the district level. Really implementation goals, so looking at alignment and prioritization in the district for behavior health and wellness overall, really teaching our district employees what MTSSB is still. It's like 50 first dates, right? You keep saying the same information over and over and then it will click. Behavior health integration, this is exciting work that we'll be doing with Concord Hospital. In conjunction, we'll be reaching out to NAMI New Hampshire, Riverbend, and really looking at our behavioral health crisis response protocol across the district. So it's consistent and also a two-way street. We're not assuming what the process is. We're getting feedback, again, that incorporates the up and coming New Hampshire 988 and mobile crisis unit. We'll be presenting PD out to district staff on that process as well. And at the school level, focusing on tier 1 programs and support. So again, tier 1 meaning for all students, focusing on building up capacity for teachers first, trying to get that buy-in of really what this means and focusing on prevention. Some exciting summer work. Again, going to meet in person for the DCLT. work on crisis response plan. That's coming up in a couple weeks. We'll do tier 1 summer work with tier 1 teams in schools, which between PES and MVMS, meeting over the summer to get a jump on back to school planning for behavior expectations and so on. I'll be going to the new teacher orientation to present out to new staff, not only about what MTSSB is, but about staff wellness opportunities. That will be part of our focus in the upcoming school year too. Important for teacher retention and just overall health and wellness in the district. So I won't go through all of the PD updates, but I chunked them into tier 1 PD, meaning what are we doing for all staff to focus on all students, and also tier 2. So how do we look at sustainability? So when the grant money is gone, right, how do we sustain these programs and implementation? So instead of offering just yoga and mindfulness, which we will be, we're training our behavioral health staff so they can run after school groups in mindfulness. They can teach skills to students so they can stay regulated in the classroom. And on the right-hand side, again, just some updates. I can share this out too, if folks want to look at. Always fun to have a dog picture, gets people refocused, right? So other community examples and family outreach examples. We went to the PES STEAM night and got some feedback on some mission and vision work for PES, so we can align that with the vision of the graduate district work. We've been updating the home visit intervention and prevention practices. It's not perfect, but we will create a fidelity measurement tool so we can get better each year. We connected with Concord PD for our staff wellness days. There were 7 days kind of traveling wellness between January and February, which was well received by staff. And then we had a Choose Love Day for staff the week before transition days at the high school, and Choose Love events for students at the high school during transition. That was well received. We had Scarlett Lewis here from the Jesse Lewis Foundation. She was a mother of Jesse Lewis who attended Sandy Hook Elementary School. She came on campus a week after Uvalde, Texas, which we questioned, was this a good move? And it actually was very well received. The staff, I mean, it was emotional, but it was excellent. Students were amazing. So I'm happy to report that was some great feedback. So exciting opportunities this summer. The middle one there, district level PD, I can't give you too much info until Friday, but we'll update you next month with some exciting happenings in the district for adventure-based outside activities to come. We'll be talking to principals at schools about MTSSB rollout in some other schools this fall. In March, I've been asked to present to the New Hampshire MTSSB Community of Practice on our district alignment progress. So how are we aligning what we're doing in the district, talking about embedding MTSSB language in job positions, in NEAS goals, and so forth. And finally, the best page, funding update. We were able to secure additional rollover funding as of 2.5 weeks ago to work on our MTSSB implementation. That was in the amount of $100,000, which is exciting just for this summer to invest in tiered supports, training, so on. We'll be offering, this hasn't been sent out yet, so exciting, free yoga and mindfulness for all students in the Merrimack Valley School District at the high school level and for all staff, including support staff, paraprofessionals, and so on throughout the summer to really look on learning mindfulness skills, yoga, relaxation techniques, stress management. And if you see that adventure-based activity plot, that was, we took a trip up to Plymouth State and we're looking at partnering for just some additional training. Stay tuned. I'll open it up for questions.
So any school dog? School dog?
School, that's the Concord PD therapy dog?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking how well that worked over at Salisbury back when they had a dog come into the classrooms.
Didn't they have one at the middle school too for a while?
I can't remember the middle school. I remember Salisbury really well because I had a lot of questions.
But that was the counselor there. Was
The
her
counselor,
dog.
yeah, I think it was the counselor there who brought that dog in, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a dog?
I do. I almost put a picture of him on here too. That's why my eyes are this big. Hey, Sherman, if you're watching at home.
Have you thought about partnering with NHTI they have a great mindfulness program there. The professor's name is Dan Houston. And Just another,
Connection.
another.
Not yet, but thank you for that connection to
Yeah.
NHDI. Yeah.
Are you holding any public, like parent forums yet or anything like that? Is that something that's planned?
Yeah, so on the vision board is yes to do parent outreach for sure. We've done some virtual ones through different clinicians in the district, but really, how do we brand that and how do we braid it into other events that we have? So you know, it's not a stigma issue. It's yes, we have, and bringing community partners. In fact, Concord Connections Coalition has approached us about bringing supports here, whether it's at an athletic event or open house night, or really connecting adults with community resources. So it's, you know, a more relaxed environment, fun. There's a family fun day that's posted. I sent some information out to the district. There'll be another day in August that we send information out, really just to get the word out about the work that we're doing.
So do you have somebody in each building who's sort of part of your team as a full-time assignment, or how does that work?
So we're putting tiered teams together. The question is, do we have a person in each building to help with this? So we're really looking at existing teams and inventorying where this work makes sense. So in our 2 demonstration schools, that was through leadership teams, and we would dedicate a meeting monthly to look at specific school data and implementation tasks. So that's how we're currently accessing that.
Will there be virtual opportunities for community connections for parents who, because of their work schedule, can't be involved in maybe some site-specific opportunities?
In terms of feedback for specific schools,
No,
or
in terms of communities being able to virtually watch or listen or be a part of any sort of community outreach?
So our district community leadership team is virtual. It has been virtual. In terms, that's an interesting thought.
So if you're doing any community trainings or community outreach,
Oh, I see.
is there a virtual?
PD, we could work on that.
Yes,
Yeah,
is there
and
a
access-
virtual connection so that you know, students who aren't able to be in person, or parents who aren't able to be in person, or community members can participate in some way?
There certainly can be. Yeah, thank you. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
And as of July 1st, Becky took over as the district director of school counseling as well. So when you ask the question whether or not she has folks at every building, Becky does. She has one of the largest teams in the district.
Oh, okay.
And by creating tier 1 teams with the administrators in each district, she's expanding her outreach and impact. And Becky doesn't like all the public adulation, but she's just done a terrific job. She's great to have in the office. She has really benefited our morale and wellness, even at the office, just having her around. So if she can spread that enthusiasm and those great feelings, we have high hopes for what she's going to do and what she's done thus far.
So is it anticipated that this will be on the agenda for the next few months so that we can keep getting updates on the progress of the MTSB plan?
Yeah, I would,
We'll schedule some updates. It may not be monthly,
Yeah.
but we'll do some periodic updates for you.
monthly might be a little,
Well, she's got a lot planned, so I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't
Let
wanna
her
be
do
overwhelmed.
it. She'll get to us every couple of months,
There we
right?
go.
Yeah. Thank you, Becky. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Go
Are
ahead.
you using some of the Rescue Act money to fund it?
no, this is through a grant from the New Hampshire Department of Education for the System of Care Coordinator and connections that way. So this is all state funded.
And is the state funding going to run out, or?
At some point, it may run out. We're hopeful that the need will be seen at a lot of different levels, and this type of money will become available through a bunch of different resources. And at the same time, we're always thinking creatively and innovatively about how we utilize our own internal resources, and we recognize the value of the position.
Okay. All right, moving on. Manifest and journal entries. Tracy and I have both signed off on them, and you all have had an opportunity to look them over. Could I have a motion to accept them, please?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Any questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go ahead. Yes.
Can I just say, just give a shout out, just make sure that the ladies in the office
Yeah.
know that we are thinking of them, and I know that the software is not doing everything that they would like it to be doing still.
Still.
And
Yeah.
it's tough for their position right now, so just let them know that, well, I'm assuming everybody
Yes,
else.
you can assume.
Tough position to be
appreciate the
in.
work.
Yeah.
We're on it. It's a little bit, I just talked about that a tiny bit in my report tonight.
Okay. All right.
Just a tiny
Good.
bit.
Tiny.
All right. So moving along, I actually don't have anything to report. So
Except for the weather on the island.
awesome. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Dr. Worm.
All right, I will make mine short and sweet as well. I know what's on Mark's list, so I'm gonna, just,
See if we can preempt it.
see, yeah. Well, that wouldn't be fair because this time we actually talked about the list, when we do it
No.
accidentally, which, makes you know that we're thinking along the same lines. It's fun, but this would be cheating. So, but donors choose, you've heard me mention past, in fact, you saw it in Becky's presentation. I just got some updates from them as far as our, the amount of money that has been raised district-wide, and we're approaching $100,000 now over the life of using Donors Choose. Really been since 2018. There were some earlier ones before it got widespread, but we are getting close to that $100,000 mark. This year we have about 14,000, a little more than 14,000. There's been 38 different teachers who have submitted Donors Choose projects, and there's been 391 donors. So there's people from all over that are throwing money. Horace Mann has been a great partner. Every time Horace Mann, they have a little thing. Anytime they see something from Merrimack Valley, they automatically throw some money towards it. Might be $25, might be $50. But so we've had some local people, and we also have people that are funding from out of state. 91 people are funding from out of state. They like the way that we're approaching it. They like the projects that we're doing. So there's a number of different reasons for that. And so, a big chunk of that has been, from out of state donors. Some of them are graduates, but some of them are just people that once they see one project, it's one of those success breeds success. There's one good, hey, I'm going to keep looking for that Merrimack Valley place because they just raised a bunch of money for podcasting that they're doing at, the Learning Center. And then we have some flexible seating, and then we have some things for fitness. So they see that, and then we have a lot of repeat donors. So I think that speaks a lot to that. Other than that, I think I'll just do a quick hitter of good news and bow out and cede my time to the gentleman from New Hampshire.
Okay.
You're up.
All right. So thank you very much. Randy and I were both fortunate to be part of the New Hampshire School Administrators Association June conference, which just wrapped up 2 weeks ago, I guess, 2 weeks ago. And we were both invited to sit on an educational panel. And we were fortunate to present to a group of our colleagues, and it was very well received. And folks thought that we spoke passionately and well about the things that were happening here in the district, how we're utilizing certain systems. And our benefit or reward for continuing to be on these panels is to continue to be asked to be on the panels. Mm-hmm. So coming to a panel near you soon, I'm sure you'll see that either Randy or myself. I just concluded my last term as an AASA governing board member. You've heard me talk about that in the past. I think there have been July board meetings in the past where I was in Washington, D.C., and you guys didn't get to see me.
Oh,
So I said, listen, enough of that. I can't miss any more board meetings. No, you can only run for 2 terms or have 2 terms. So my term just ended at the end of June. So there's a new AASA governing board member for New Hampshire, Meredith Nato, who is a superintendent in Hampton
And a Merrimack Valley High School grad.
and a Merrimack Valley High School grad. She and I spoke quite a bit about the roles and responsibilities of that position. She's very excited to be part of it. And I was happy to pass the reins. It's very hot in Washington, D.C. in July.
Yes, it is.
And I am now the chair of the NHSA Resolutions Committee. So that keeps me at the table and involved with what's happening with the executive board and the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. So I didn't need a seat warmer or anybody to stand in for me. As you may have heard just a few moments ago, we have continued financial software training. And I do want to recognize all the folks that are working so hard on that. It's a new system, and some of that came in with an employee self-serve dashboard that has led to some of the disconnect and issues. We continue to be very straightforward with what our expectations are for the trainers, very straightforward with what our expectations are for what we'll pay for what we get. And it's funny, I haven't heard from them in a while. So I know that Hillary continues to communicate with them, put forward what our expectations are. We're documenting any issues that we have, but we've done 7 payrolls, and none of the payrolls at this point have been smooth. And it's all based on the software. And just I mean, we have people working overtime a lot, and we're trying to do what's right for them. You heard Becky talk about the fact that she's providing a lot of wellness opportunities for folks. And we just, again, we're very, very fortunate that we have people that are willing to put all of this extra effort in to ensure that the trains are moving on time. So I echo what Tracy said earlier. If you do see Tina, Andrea, Katie, Hillary, Kathleen, Becky Butt's part of it kind of tangentially. If you see any of them, just thank them, because they're doing yeoman's work right now. And I called it a Sisyphean task earlier because that rock keeps rolling back down the hill. So they're working very, very hard. I've asked the question more than once, as Randy has as well, is there another software package that we could be using? But we're so deep in right now that they have you over a barrel. They really do. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is hosting a summit at our SAU office with payroll people from around the area that are using the same software. They might not be using it to the same level that we are, but just so that we can talk about coordinated processes like how do you onboard a vendor? How do you connect invoices to a particular vendor? What are some of these efficient ways that you're doing it? Because with any software, and when you get that training, there are a dozen ways to do the same thing. So within those dozen ways, we're searching for the efficiencies and the repeatable actions that will allow us to move forward in a way that is memorable and that we know works. So they continue to work extraordinarily hard. So other than that, at the SAU office, we're planning for the new year. We have administrative retreat coming up in August. We're making sure that we have substantive and engaging and innovative agenda for folks to wrap their arms around. And we want to make sure that we're moving the ball forward for everyone, all of our students and families and learning communities. So that's what we have going on right now.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where am I?
Topics.
Topics for the next board meeting. Anyone?
Obviously, policy, we'll have a policy. for-
We'll have policy. Yeah. Yes.
So I have a little story to tell before I ask about this possible topic. So yesterday, I was talking to an individual from Concord whom I'm acquainted with, and he was saying to me, did you see the information that just came out? Merrimack Valley is placed above the Concord School District. And he says, I'm a Concord taxpayer. I pay a lot of money for school in Concord, and I want to know what Merrimack Valley does that makes them better. And I said, yes. And we charge less per student than Concord High does too. So I thought it would be interesting if we did get some updated stats on how our kids are doing. Some things as to the number of courses we're offering, the types of activities our kids are involved in, some interesting stats for the community to understand how much Merrimack Valley does offer. Because too often, we're on the offensive when we should be more proactive in engaging the community and telling them what it is we do that we do very well. And we have had some students with some stunning achievements, and I think it's worth tooting our own horn and letting the public know how well Merrimack Valley is doing.
Sounds good. Anyone else?
Can I make a quick request on that one?
Yes.
As that, the next meeting is August 1st,
Yes.
so we have a shortened time frame. Can we move that one to maybe September?
Sure. We may have even another accolade by September.
Okay. That makes sense. Anyone else? Okay. I will open the floor for public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to comment? Yes.
We're supposed to vote on-
What?
we're supposed to vote on the topics.
I'm sorry. Well,
We don't have to do it because it's till September. No, that's all right.
the policy we know is going to be there. The
Right.
updated stats.
I was just.
Does anybody object to us hearing updated stats
In September.
in September? Thank you.
I just want to follow our
Yeah,
procedure.
okay.
No.
Excuse me. Yes,
Yes.
please.
Julie Nutt Webster. I know you're all well aware that now that we're in the new school year, this year's seniors have yet to have a normal high school year. So I just have one request. Can we stop with the COVID updates? Other schools around haven't been doing it. I can name Concord and Bow, for instance. So can we just omit that and just try to get them a normal school year this year? I think they would really appreciate it.
Thoughts?
If you recall,
Yeah.
We did actually decide not to, and then the numbers went up and then
and
we,
then we finished the school year. So I was hoping personally that it would resolve itself and
I don't know
and
that it will.
unless there was clamor for more updates that we, other school districts, when Randy and I connect with other superintendents and school districts, they are no longer sending weekly updates out.
okay.
But we serve at the pleasure of the board.
I think that's something we should think about. I mean, we did sort of say we weren't going to do it, and
It
then
could be a topic for the next meeting, I think.
that could be a topic?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's-
Because it
Continue to
would-
watch things.
It would
Yeah.
be timely with the beginning of the school year
Yeah,
to
okay,
have that conversation before school starts.
okay. Anybody object to that being on the August agenda? Thank you. You got it.
Thank you.
For the August board meeting, Bobby Joe will run that meeting. My plan is to not be here for that, but Bobby Joe will be here, just so you know. Do we do need non-public?
We do.
Okay. Could I have a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91A 311K? Is
I'll
there,
second it.
moved and seconded? That's a roll call vote, please.
Have a 5-minute break, too?
3
Yes.
minutes.
3 minutes.
Tracy Brookie,
Yes.
Lori Carey,
Yes.
Eric Hansen,
Yes.
Owen Harrington,
Yes.
Sally Hurst Dickinson,
Yes.
Peggy Jones Blanchard, Julie
No.
Longnecker,
Yes.
Bobby Joe Michael, Melissa Muzzy,
Yes.
Laura Vincent,
Yes.
Jessica Wheeler Russell.
Yes.
And just to let folks know before we cut the feed, there is no action coming out of this. So unless anybody wants to watch us adjourn the meeting, they don't have to hang around.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
I think it would be good to review our COVID protocol or what we're going to do.
Yep.
I would love for this year to be normal in our district too.